now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by the Title Bout Championship computer game. Get yourself a copy right now. Visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the banner, or just visit their site, TitleBoutBoxing.com. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by the Southern Gourmet Spice Company. If you want the best added spices for whatever you eat, check out Kenny Bear's Barbecue Rub, Kenny Bear's Seasoned Salt, and my favorite, Kenny Bear's Cajun Spice. Visit southerngourmetspice.com and make sure you tell them Billy C sent you. And finally, today's show is being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to the Bass Man on the Plane, is available right now where all good books are sold. Get yourself a copy right now at Amazon.com, or if you're looking to get a signed copy, just drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. The fight just ended. The big heavyweight title fight. Oleksandr Usyk retained his title against Anthony Joshua. The way the three judges scored it. One judge had it for AJ, 115, 113. One had it, and the other two had it for Usyk, 115, 113, and then 116, 112. My personal score was 116, 112 for Usyk. I thought Usyk pretty much dominated the fight. I gave rounds 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, and 11 for Usyk. And Anthony Joshua got rounds 2, 3, 8, and 9 from me. His best round was round 9, and I felt that Usyk's best round was round 10. In a nutshell, I thought that Anthony Joshua wasn't aggressive enough. He started out with a good game plan, but he didn't throw enough punches. Usyk did. Usyk never stopped. Usyk was tired. Usyk got hurt, but mentally, Usyk was stronger. He deserved to win. I personally don't even think it should have been a split decision or a majority decision in this case. I think it should have been a unanimous decision. I'm not sure how you could possibly give AJ a 115, 113 score. That's just my opinion. I thought it was a very entertaining fight, and Usyk deserved the win. And in my opinion, the best heavyweight out there today. Joining us right now is my man, Dax Khan. What's up, Dax?
What's up, Billy C?
Well, what's your thoughts, my man?
I think that we've seen a better version of Anthony Joshua than we did the last fight. But again, Usyk is just that much better. And I'm disgusted, as were a lot of even professional fighters on social media. I know Alex was on there with just the biasness, where by the time the second round came, they were pretty much declaring AJ a 3-time world champion. It was disgusting. There was no reason how. There's no way I can possibly rationalize that being a split decision. The only way they did that is to avoid some type of really big scandal.
I don't know. I had the first 3 rounds extremely close. They could have gone either way. I personally scored round 1 for Usyk and 2 and 3 for AJ. Those are really the only close rounds, in my opinion. Alex joins us too. What was your thoughts on the fight, my man?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good fight.
Yeah.
I only hopped on social media a couple of times just to post things that I thought. I wasn't really reading anybody else's take. But I'm a little surprised to hear that, because I didn't think that. I could spend a lot of time criticizing the broadcasting, but I thought it was a close fight, and I think we're talking about a 7-5 card either way, and we do this a lot. 7-5, if that's 1 round difference between a draw. I was surprised because I thought Usyk won, but then when I added up my card, I had it even. So I was a little surprised at that. I agree with you, Billy C. I thought there was a couple of very close rounds early that I saw. Mannix gave he gave the first to Joshua. I thought Usyk kind of eked that one out just with a couple of more straight lefts.
Me
that
too.
Was a close round. And the third round was close.
Yep. Those first 3 rounds were close, in my opinion.
But you're right. The 9th and 10th were sensational, and that was where all the action. It was all in the championship rounds.
No, the 12th round was a pretty good round for Usyk too. The difference is meant. Listen, I hate to give Dax the credit, but Dax said it 100% the other day. The mental part of this fight was clearly Usyk, and that's what won the fight. He wasn't like Usyk had all this extra energy. He was tired too. Personally, I never saw Usyk get rocked as much as he did in this fight, but he wouldn't be denied. That was the difference, right, Dax?
Yes, yeah, you can say that. I just more or less, Joshua did start off with the right game plan, working the body a little bit, and if he would have done that consistently, even if it meant getting punched in the face a few times.
Yeah.
Which, again, you have to be willing to do. But Anthony Joshua, in my opinion, has become very gun shy. And I thought more about our pre-fight show where you had stated, oh, why didn't he go to Kronk? And that would be the place where he would be able to learn how to use it. Anthony Joshua is not the biggest heavyweight out there. Anthony Joshua is now the average size heavyweight. Usyk is a guy who used to be considered a large heavyweight, and he is now a small heavyweight, but he's not a small guy. So Anthony Joshua, that style that Kronk teaches, that was made for Lennox Lewis, Vladimir Klitschko. That was made for Tyson Fury. That was not made for somebody like an Anthony Joshua, who, and Andre Ward had made a point the other day stating, he keeps needing to slim down more. Stop worrying about those muscles. They're hurting you. Everybody knows it takes more energy to feed muscle than it does fat even. That's why a guy like Andy Ruiz Jr., 25 times the stamina that an Anthony Joshua, who looks like a Greek god, has. He didn't get very much, they didn't allow us to hear very much direction from the corner of Anthony Joshua in terms of Robert Garcia. So I'm not really sure what was going on over there.
Listen, the bottom line, was that Usyk did what he had to do. In my opinion, I think that AJ, I agree. I agree with you, Dax. He worked the body. He did start off a little better, but he wasn't moving forward, and he didn't let his hands go, Alex. That was the difference, I think. I think that he needed to take chances in this fight. I said it the other day, and I think that that's where he made a mistake. And another thing that I will throw up to you, Alex, is this. You said that you thought that he would do well, but we would get in trouble and resort back to what he does. And he did that. He started resorting back to what he did. Garcia and the rest of his corner was telling him, double up the jab and follow it with the right hand. And he started pouring the jab again, I think Anthony Joshua had a good chance in this fight, but he let it slip through his fingers, Alex.
I think Joshua definitely looked much better than in the first fight. And I think, to his credit, as was said, I think he definitely, this was the toughest fight Usyk's ever been in. So that's impressive. Because I didn't give him credit on the pre-fight show. I thought that Usyk was going to stop him. And there really, I don't think there was ever a moment. There was a couple of moments where I was like, wow, maybe Usyk's in trouble.
He was in trouble. Trouble. But his heart carried him through. Yeah. And the fact that AJ didn't follow through. When AJ had him, listen, there was a couple of times when AJ roughed him up and actually was able to get him in the corner against the ropes, and he didn't let his hands go. He let Usyk dictate the fight and get him back in the center of the ring, and that's where his strength was. We all said that Usyk was going to be better at counterpunching. He was more accurate. He was a better boxer. And AJ played into his game plan.
Right. And I think that's what made him because he had the first 6 rounds. I thought he had looked great and he was fighting a really good game plan. And I thought he was being a lot more aggressive than he was the first fight, and as aggressive as probably is wise to be with a guy who's as dangerous as Usyk, because as they were saying, if he came out there like Marcos Maidana, he would have gotten knocked out.
But I thought, I will say this, and what do you think, Dax? I think towards the end of the fight, when, especially after that 9th round, where that was actually AJ's best round, I thought he should have come out reckless after that, because he did have Usyk a little bit in trouble, so to speak. Instead, it was the other way around. Usyk came out, guns a blaring, and basically, and in my opinion, the fight was over from that round. From round 10, Usyk took control of the fight, 10, 11, and 12. What do you think, Dax?
I think that the 9th was certainly Joshua's best round, but I also believe because it was his best round out of 24 rounds, the success he had there was a little bit exaggerated, and I do believe that because he landed that big punch that kind of shook Usyk a little bit, that not only would have, but we've seen knock out previous career heavyweights with. I think that, a lot of people got a little overexcited about that, because the 10th round, Usyk came out, and when you go and rewatch that fight, Joshua was close to being knocked out in that 10th round. He panicked like he did in the past. Joshua would have been knocked out if Usyk would have stayed on him. But Usyk, being the boxer he is, and knowing Joshua did come back, I believe, at some point in time during that barrage from Usyk, and caught him with a decent uppercut, which is why Usyk said, you know what, let me step back a little bit. Usyk, being the intelligent fighter he is, has seen other fighters such as Vladimir Klitschko fall into that trap, get hit with that uppercut. Dillian White happened to, and they ended up getting knocked out. So he just went back to what he does best, and he boxed. Anthony Joshua just had no answers, and Anthony Joshua more or less Usyk just took his confidence away from him. His confidence was taken away from him by Andy Ruiz Jr. We really thought that he showed something against Vladimir Klitschko, getting up from a hellacious knockdown. I believe that was in the 5th round. But as I have stated before, and I stick to this, Anthony Joshua, like a lot of these fighters, makes too much money too soon, too much attention. Anthony Joshua assumes that he is the winner before the fight starts. And look at the scorecards. That tells you.
Alex, I thought that Anthony Joshua came out, and what we saw tonight, first of all, there's no doubt that Usyk's the best heavyweight out there. And with that said, I think we saw the best version of Anthony Joshua. He did improve his defense. He did block some of those shots from Usyk. Obviously, it wasn't enough to win the fight, but I did see improvement. However, this isn't Little League. You know what I mean? But he did show some improvement. Personally, I think, if the magnitude of this fight wasn't as great as it was, that maybe working with Garcia and his new team, a couple of fights before this fight may have yielded a better result.
Yeah, I mean, personally, if Tyson Fury retires, there was part of me that I was thinking, well, when they were reading the decision, I said, if this third one's a draw, we end up seeing this fight again. That wouldn't be bad to me. It would be disappointing in the sense that we wanted something definitive. But if Tyson Fury's retiring, then yeah, seeing these two guys again, that wouldn't be terrible. However, I don't think there's anything really, because I do think AJ will get better with Robert Garcia. I think what we saw tonight was impressive. I don't know. I think you're being a little hard on him, Dax. I mean, I thought he looked really good tonight, but he was in there against a better fighter who by the 6th or 7th round, all the feinting and him falling for it. I didn't see him as gun shy tonight, like the effects of the Andy Ruiz. I thought of him as being falling for feints against a very dangerous guy who can't put your lights out like that. But you don't want to get hit. it's the punch that you don't see. And Usyk definitely can hit you with a punch you didn't see coming. And in the 10th round, I think that's what was happening. He was hitting him like 2, 3, 4 punches that he couldn't see coming.
That was the difference. He was putting multiple punches together where AJ wasn't. AJ landed one shot here and there, and then he would stop and reload, so to speak.
But I mean, AJ, to me, in those first few rounds, he was flexible. To me, that was one of the things that was more like the younger AJ because he had gotten all big and muscle bound.
He looked good, but I mean,
and the body work, that when he had that combination of the body, man, I was like, whoa.
But then he should have followed it up. He should have followed it up with an attack.
Well, and the hernia punch, because that was what, the 8th round, and then the 9th was his best. So I think that hernia punch, because he punched him right on like the area, like a groin hernia.
Wow, he didn't mean it.
No, he didn't intelligently, but again, it's not that I'm saying Anthony Joshua is this overrated garbage fighter who is handed the title. My point is,
I don't agree with
and
that.
We've seen it with a lot of young fighters, especially of this era, and we've spoken about it on the show many times. Too much, too fast. I spoke about that in the pre-fight show about Anthony Joshua has a little bit more celebrity to him than he has dog in him, because if he had that dog in him, he would have continually went after Usyk, especially knowing that he was able to push him backward, especially knowing he would have been able to rough him up, especially knowing that actually that right there is where I seen a big change in him. Remember one time he did try to get in close and kind of push Usyk on the ropes, and Usyk shoved him off. And if you look at the reaction of Anthony Joshua, he almost doubted himself, wondering how this guy actually pushed me off when he tried to use his superior size and strength, kind of like a Riddick Bowe and Evander Holyfield type moment.
I think that if he had a little bit of Terrence Crawford in him, he would be unbeatable, but he doesn't, so he is. But hey, real quick.
My last thing is just there's levels to this game, Bill. We know this. That's why there's a pound for pound list. That's why the number 1 guy and the number 10 guy are not the same. That is why the unified champion and the belt holder are not considered the same. That is why back when we had only one belt, that you had the top 10 and you had to work your way up to get into a position. And right now in this sport, unfortunately, we have very good fighters, but we don't have any great fighters. Anthony Joshua is a very good fighter. He is reaching the age that in the last 2 eras, heavyweights have come into their prime, like a Lennox Lewis, for example, and Vladimir Klitschko. Between 33 and 35 is when they were at their absolute best. Anthony Joshua is getting near that age. Oleksandr Usyk is at that age.
The other heavyweight fight I just want to touch on real quick, Zhele Zong, I guess is how you pronounce it. I thought he squeaked that fight out, to be honest with you. 115, 112 twice, 114, 113 for her. I thought it was the way he pronounced his name was Hrgovic, but it was Hrgovic. But I don't know about that. The way he was walking around that ring.
He's pretty sure how to say his own name.
I know he knows how to say it. But I wouldn't have been surprised if the referee waved it off sometimes. The way he looked like he was in Dream Street. I think if Zong had a little more energy left, he would have stopped the guy. But he was winded. He was done. But
Zong's a 39-year-old fighter.
I know. I enjoyed that fight. I thought that they're 2 very big men. The other fight that I liked,
gigantic, and
here again, this is another scary part. That was for the IBF Eliminator.
The thing that's interesting about that was when you compare the speed, it looked like they were fighting in slow motion.
It did
compared to even the other heavyweights. Talk about levels.
Yeah,
those guys look like middleweights.
The other interesting fight I want to touch on real quick was Popeye. Again, I thought that Richie Rivera, who fought Bado Jack, who I thought would have just destroyed Rivera. I kind of thought Rivera won that fight. It was a split decision. I know Badou Jack landed the harder punches, but I also thought Popeye landed substantially more. I wasn't believing what I saw on the punch stats. What did you guys think, Dax? What did you think?
I've seen Rivera fight several times. He is kind of like a Chris Algieri, where has a huge fan following in his local area. I believe he's up by your area, I believe, Alex.
It's Hartford, yeah.
Hartford.
Yeah, he's up from that area. But he is a guy that, if he had a little bit better management, or should I say better promoter behind him, he would go a little bit further, because he goes to cruiserweight, down to light heavyweight, cruiserweight, down to light heavyweight, and he becomes the main event for small club shows. He's a skilled fighter,
jumped
though.
Up to cruiserweight for this fight.
He's fought almost at 100 and he's fought at cruiserweight about 7-8 times. But anyway, Badou Jack, listen, this is a guy that's 38 years old. Tonight in that ring, he weighed well over 200 pounds.
He looked
at
big.
The official weigh-in, he was 199 pounds. Badou Jack was at his best right after his knockout loss to Derek Edwards. Badou Jack, ever since the Jean Pascal loss, or ever since the fight before that, when he was cut against who's the kid from Staten Island? Pascal also beat. Marcus Brown.
Marcus Brown was the guy who cut up Badou Jack.
Yeah. Remember what a brutal fight that was. But ever since then, I think Badou Jack has kind of lost interest in the fight. He is a 2-division champion. He has had some very good fights, and unfortunately, Badou Jack has also been victim of more or less the other guy when it comes to the whole Mayweather circle. So I'm not really sure what Badou Jack is going to do in his future, what his plans are for the future, whether he even wants to fight on in the future. But that talk on going to face one of the top cruiserweight champions is absolutely absurd. Looking at him tonight, can you imagine him against even a Uniel Dorticos or somebody like that?
No, and I'll tell you a fight. Callum Smith fought a much tougher fighter from France than I thought he would face, and he's looking to fight the killer in that division. I wouldn't be wanting to go after Beterbiev in that one, man, because I don't know. I mean, Callum Smith just seems, yes, he's got power, but when he delivers his punches, he just seems very awkward. And Artur Beterbiev is, I think Callum Smith is going to be going to sleep in that fight.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like you get to win. Guess what? You're the contest winner. Oh yeah, well, what do I win? Oh, you get to jump into a volcano.
He wants to fight him. That was what he's saying.
He's got the same odds. Yeah, I did think that Popeye. I've seen him fight several times live, and he is tough to watch. That's why I really enjoyed tonight, because tonight I thought he proved several things. One, he could really bedevil a guy who is more skilled than he is at this stage in his career. The other thing, I think Badou Jack had no idea how to deal with that ugly style. Maybe it's part of it, like Dak said, is that he's done.
But Popeye was pretty elusive. He was.
Oh, he's very elusive. Yeah. That's the thing that's weird about him, is that he is this sort of defensive, sort of knuckleball sort of fighter, but he can pop. Even though he doesn't really turn over his shots, he sort of cuffs and slaps and
slaps, like I was saying to you in when we were texting.
Right, he's slap eye, not pop eye. But to give him a lot of credit, because I thought tonight that was a career best performance. And I thought he did deserve the decision. And Badou Jack should be very thankful he walks out of there with a win, because maybe his career continues. But if Rivera gets a rematch, that's good for him, because over here, in this area, it might that would be a good sell.
Hey, Dax, jumping
Yeah, and
back.
again, Rivera, because of his promoter, is a guy that is not going to get opportunities that he could get, and chances where he can improve to be a desirable.
That's why he went to the desert. Hey, Dax, jumping back to the heavyweight. Now, what do you think's next for Usyk? Does Tyson Fury come out of retirement to fight him?
I don't know. Tyson Fury, he's been very vocal the last couple days. Number one, he is, I believe, Tyson Fury, I have this odd feeling he is trying to gain some sort of order and set something really big up for himself, then retire. Right now, he is working with, actually, Joseph Parker to help Joseph Parker get ready for his fight against Joe Joyce.
Yeah, Joyce.
Matter of fact, he has been sending out support messages to Andy Ruiz Jr. on a regular basis, simply because Andy Ruiz Jr., Luis Ortiz is being backed by Deontay Wilder. So I really think that we're going to see Tyson Fury back in the ring one more time, but I think Tyson Fury wants to more or less clear up this confusion amongst the people underneath and make sure that whoever he comes back against, whether or not it's Usyk or whether or not it would have been AJ, that it's going to be for all the marbles and nobody's going to doubt. One of the biggest criticisms that Tyson Fury has gotten is the fact that he's never faced the heavyweight champion of the world, even though when he beat Vladimir Klitschko, he was the heavyweight champion of the world. It was the politics with the IBF stripping him of that title rather than allowing him to face Vladimir Klitschko in a rematch that just kind of caused him to spiral and walk away from the sport for a couple of years.
Alex, what do you think's next for Usyk? Are they going to try to make a Fury fight, or do you think he's going to let some of the other heavyweights battle it out and try and get one of those guys? I mean, obviously, this fight tonight was an eliminator for the IBF portion. Are they going to split up the belts? I mean, what's next?
I think just judging from past, just from history and watching the sport for a couple of decades, several decades now, that's what was very likely to happen. That it'll probably stay a unified title, maybe one more fight, if that.
Who's going to be the fight? What's going to be the fight?
That's going to be the thing. Is they all will have to agree. I don't know if they'll all agree on Hrgovic, and not if Fury. If there is rumblings for a Fury fight, I don't know. In terms of, I don't believe Fury's retired. I do think we will see him fight again. Of course, the AJ fight makes the most sense. However, I do think I would love to see. Because the thing right now, as much as I'm very happy, I enjoyed the fight tremendously and feel like he definitely solidified his grip on the heavyweight championship. I still want to see him, because just last week there was a different guy who was the heavyweight champion and they didn't fight. Fury, so of course I want to see now Fury. He has said he doesn't like a small, speedy guy. The thing that we saw tonight is you can slow Usyk down. You can tire him out. I don't know.
Fury Usyk is the fight.
I would love to see it.
That's the fight. You want to see who the best heavyweight on the planet is? Usyk against Fury. End of story.
The problem with that is it won't be a marketable fight. A lot of people, because both are boxers, even though Fury does know how to get rough, as we have seen in the Deontay Wilder fights, for example. For the most part, they're boxers, and it's going to be a fight for the purist. An Anthony Joshua fight would be, I
think it would be
big money fight.
I think a place exactly where they had it tonight in Saudi Arabia would throw all kinds of money at them, or Dubai, something like that. And I do think it's a sellable fight.
But the IBF, The IBF won't allow it. I'm telling you.
I think it's definitely a marketable fight. Whether it's an entertaining fight to watch would be another story.
Yeah.
However, I do think that Fury, because remember, Fury's win over Vladimir Klitschko is like the most incredible upset you would never, ever want to watch again. But I think he's a better fighter than that. He's much more of an action fighter than he was then. So I don't think he would fight as dull as he'd have to be a lot more defensive against Usyk. But no, not with Sugar Hill. He would be using that bow and arrow Kronk 1-2, man. And if he fought Usyk with that, Usyk would do a little dance. So I don't know. I would love to see it.
I think that he was never as aggressive as he was under Sugar Hill. And if he carried that with Usyk, it would be very interesting because you'd have two extremely good boxers with great defense, and one guy. And to tell you the truth, I think power-wise, I'm not so sure Fury has much more power than Usyk. I love that fight. I love the fight. I think
Fury's power is very underrated.
Yeah. Well, he showed
it's very underrated.
Well, who are you going to judge it by? Deontay Wilder's glass jaw? Really, that's his biggest knockout.
I think Fury has gotten stronger, and I think he's a great body puncher. So, and I think I don't know.
You have to watch the progression of Fury. Remember, this is a guy that once uppercutted himself on international TV.
That's
okay,
right.
This is a guy that people forget for whatever reason. Boxing fans have short memories. He spent time at Kronk, as I've said multiple times on this show. So this is a man who has completely evolved into that full fighter that can fight whatever style he wants, which is why if he fought Anthony Joshua, if Anthony Joshua went to and he trained at Kronk gym, how is Anthony Joshua going to use that Kronk style against Tyson Fury? Tyson Fury is bigger than him. He weighs more than him. He has a longer reach than him, which is what he's being more or less trained to do. That's what made Vladimir Klitschko so successful. That's what made Lennox Lewis such an all-time great. Anthony Joshua does not have the gas tank of a Vitaly Klitschko where he can just go out there and just consistently apply pressure. So Oleksandr Usyk, Tyson Fury would definitely be a great fight for the sport. Would love to see one heavyweight champion have all the belts, except, again, the IBF will not allow it. For whatever reason, they just won't play nice. They won't play nice. Why would you not? How do you not? A guy that the title, the fighter legitimizes the title. Remember, the WBO title was considered nothing until Klitschko. Klitschko was the one that more or less legitimized it because he held it so long and he was on top for so long.
Ray Mercer might disagree with you.
Yeah. I think it was already legitimized by Ray Mercer.
Not like it was when the Klitschkos held it.
I don't know. You're a Klitschko fan. I'm not.
It has nothing. Bernard Hopkins, okay? The IBF belt.
I don't
Bernard
know.
Hopkins made the IBF belt the most important.
To me, none of those trinkets have any more weight than the other.
And that's what Tyson Fury, you see, that's what Tyson Fury, and I hate to say it because I can't stand it, but Floyd Mayweather, the same thing. You reach in today's world of boxing, because there's so many belts, you reach a level where the belts don't mean anything. The fans are going to tell you who
cares. I don't care about the belts.
And Tyson Fury has that. He could give up all the belts and he could decide, you know what? I want to fight Usyk, and people are still going to say it's the same thing that happened if you go back in time when Muhammad Ali was exiled and he didn't have the title, and people still recognized him. Yeah, you could go back to Jack Johnson. Half people are still recognizing James Jeffries as the champ, So
Larry Holmes with the IBF title.
True.
When he held it, Larry Holmes was considered the heavyweight champion of the world, and the IBF came long after the WBA and the WBC. My point is, we have very few fighters, and Tyson Fury is one of those fighters that, yes, he wants the money, but he also wants the legacy. And in a guy like Tyson Fury's mind is the legacy is being the undisputed. Nobody can say I didn't have this title. I didn't have that title. I refused to face him. Nobody can, somewhere find a way to say that he avoided anybody.
All right, guys. Final thoughts on this. I don't want to drag out the post fight, and we'll be doing our show on Wednesday. But Dax, we'll start with you. Final thoughts on the Usyk Joshua fight. What's your final thoughts on the fight and where each of them go from here?
I thought it was a great fight. I thought Joshua did a whole lot better this time than he did the last time. I like the fact that Joshua came in and he looked a little bit slimmer. I just hope that Anthony Joshua can get a couple less dangerous opponents under Robert Garcia, fix a couple of those little bit of flaws, gain a little bit of that confidence back, and Anthony Joshua learn an Anthony Joshua style instead of trying to go in there and do something like he did in the last two fights, outbox a master boxer. And then Anthony Joshua will have the legacy that he's capable of creating.
Alex?
I think that today was a tremendous fight. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was going to be a little easier for Usyk, but I really was impressed with Joshua. And I think because I kind of thought that, this would sort of be his swan song where he wouldn't be really viable as somebody in the title contention. But I disagree with that now. I think I was happy to be proved wrong. I thought he looked really good. I think maybe with Robert Garcia has brought out some good qualities in him. I thought one of the things, even the haircut was like the younger Anthony Joshua, who was brave. His fight with Dillian White, he was an aggressive, big heavyweight. And I thought that he showed that he could, have some levels. The body punching was tremendous. So I think he does have a future. I'm not sure where he goes, but I think that I thought, his options were very limited. I'm happy to think that they are not. Usyk, I would love to see the Fury fight, but I think we'll probably just get a mandatory, maybe Hrgovic. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if those titles are broken up before February. Let's give it that long.
My thoughts, I agree with both of you. I thought it was a great fight. I think Usyk separated himself from the rest of the pack. I do believe that Usyk and Fury will step in the ring together. I do think they'll fight. Whether or not it's for all the belts or not, that'll, like Dax said, that'll be up to the IBF, I guess. But I do think that that's going to be the next fight we see in the heavyweight division from Tyson Fury. As far as
you think before the end of this year?
No, not before the end of this year, but I think the next fight that Usyk has will be against Tyson Fury.
Wow.
I also think that Anthony Joshua, it'd be interesting to see. I agree with both of you. I thought that he did improve. Maybe he gives it another fight or two, like Dax suggests, with Robert Garcia. Maybe he can make another run for it. But then again, he's got a lot of money, and he's a young guy. I think he's going to sit back and decide if he really wants to, and I wouldn't blame him if he didn't, to be honest with you. So I don't know what to expect from Anthony Joshua. Usyk's going to keep going. This guy is a great fighter, and the fight that everybody's going to be clamoring for is him against Tyson Fury. And I think that fight would become more exciting than we may think. I think it may be fireworks. Who knows? You never know with either one of those two. So anyway,
the build-up would be fun. There'd be a lot of singing.
There'd be a lot of the build-up would be all Tyson Fury because Usyk doesn't say anything. He does what he does in the ring, and that's what I like about him. I've become a Usyk fan. So anyway, guys. I appreciate you taking the time. I look forward to us getting it on together on Wednesday. And to everybody out there, make sure you tune in next time. Until then, ciao, baby.